Fill it up. Jai Sachinandana Suramuni Vandana Baba Bhaya Vandana Jai Ho
Jai Sachinandana Suramuni Vandana Baba Bhaya Vandana Jai Ho
Jai Sachinandana Suramuni Vandana Baba Bhaya Jai Ho Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam bhangum langhayate girim jatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Darati Swapadantikam. Ancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So tonight I want to finish up with these 28 qualities that Krishna ascribes to his devotees. So, read through the verses again because it's good to hear them. But that format's not fun, so we'll go here first. So this is Canto 11, Chapter 11, and the verses are 29 through 32. Tonight we'll talk mostly about the last one, about text 32. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kripalura Krita Drohasti Tikshu Sarvadehinam Satyasaro Navadyatma Samasarvo Pakarakaha Kamaya Rahatadhir Danto Mridusuchera Kinchanaha Aniho Mitrabhuk Shanta Stiromacharano Munihi Apramatto Gabhiratma Ratiman Jitta Sadgunaha Amanimana Dakalyo Maitra Karunika Kavihi Agyayavam Gunam Dosham Mayadishtam Apisvakan Dharman Santyajayas Sarvam Mam Bhajeta Satu Sattamaha. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Uddhava, a saintly person is merciful and never injures others. Even if others are aggressive, He's intolerant. He is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. Little Freudian slip there. Sorry. Even if others are aggressive, he's tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. His strength and meaning in life come from the truth itself, and he's free from all envy and jealousy. And his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus, he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of others. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires, and he has controlled his senses. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary. And he is free of possessiveness. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities, and he strictly controls his eating. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his duties and is never subject to superficial transformations because he is steady and noble, even in a distressing situation. He has conquered over the 6 material qualities, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. He is free from the desire from prestige and offers honor to others. He is expert in reviving others' Krishna consciousness and therefore never cheats anyone. Rather, he's a well-wishing friend to all, being most merciful. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of all men. So now this is verse 32. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men. He perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in the various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer. And he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. He's thus considered to be the best among all living entities. Pardon my Marco Rubio moment. So, out of these, well, there are a couple of things to note about these 28 qualities. One is that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur hints that these may be found in mixed devotees as well. Anybody who's taken shelter of bhakti doesn't necessarily have to be uttama or shuddha bhakti. They may have some faith left in jnana, karma or jnana. So it's still, these qualities will show up in their character, apparently, because what Vishwanath says is, the Supreme Lord says that there are 2 types of saintly persons: those who perform devotional service mixed with karma or jnana, and those engaged in unalloyed devotional service. The first class of saintly persons is described in the first 3 verses. So that's verses 29, 30, and 31. And then he goes on to discuss those. So it appears from that, I would infer from that, that those 28 qualities may certainly show themselves in the character of devotees who are engaged in mixed devotional service, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, not necessarily pure devotional service, Uttama Bhakti, Anyabhilashi Tashunyam, Jnana Karmadhyanavrtam, Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam, Bhakti Uttama. Anyabhilashi Tashunyam. There's no contamination in pure devotional service. This is what Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu discusses. And this is what Srimad Bhagavatam discusses. It tells us, Paramo Niramatsaranam Satam, that the proper audience is those who are completely purified, completely pure at heart, completely free of all envy. Why? Because Dharma Prauchita Kaitavatra Paramo Niramatsaranam Satam. Because they've already completely given up all kind of cheating religion. So they've taken shelter of bhakti, and so it would appear then that verse 32 discusses the pure devotees, which means at least people in Shanta Rati, but certainly Dasya, Sakya Vatsalya, and Madhurya Rati. There's a verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur cites a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which says, in this Dwarkadam, I'm not sure, it doesn't say who says this. And there's no commentary on that verse from Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In this Dwarkadam, I'm being attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who's personified spiritual bliss. Simply by seeing him, I'm feeling great happiness. Oh, I have wasted so much time trying to become self-realized through impersonal cultivation. This is cause for lamentation. So this is given at as an example of one of the Sanchari Bhavas, which is disgust. So this devotee is expressing disgust at having wasted so many lifetimes pursuing moksha. And then Vishwanath also cites another Shanta Bhakta, Shukadev Goswami, who says that he was attracted to the qualities of Sri Hari, of Lord Krishna, by having heard Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, Srila Vyasadeva. So Vishwanath says that pure devotees are always fully aware of the pious advantages of executing duties within the Varnashram system and of the mistake of neglecting them. Still, because they have full faith in the Lord and full faith in Uttama Bhakti, they're not interested in these things. They may neglect them. He knows, Vishwanath says, that Krishna is the ultimate source of everything and that all perfection comes from Krishna. In other words, they have complete faith in bhakti, as Jiva Goswami says in Bhakti Sandarbha, the ultimate solution to all problems. It's the ultimate process of self-realization. I mean, there isn't much self-realization without bhakti. What do you get? Aham Brahmasmi or Tat Brahmasi. Oh, big deal. Okay, so I'm not matter. That's pretty cool, but it's not all that exciting. You know, I mean, it's okay. I'm eternal. I'm eternally good. You know. So the Bhagavatam gives us real self-realization, understanding our actual self. And so among these 28 qualities, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that let's see just how he says it. The most important, the central one, I guess the Swarupa Lakshana is, anybody guess? Out of the 28? Run through the list real quickly, Goloka. Anybody make a wild guess? You're gonna go, oh, when I say it.
Lananges.
No, it's a good one though.
always chanting about Krishna or hearing about Krishna?
It's actually Krishnaika Sharanam, that he's taken complete shelter of the Lord. Everything else describes that. They're all secondary. They all kind of reflect having taken complete shelter of the Lord. So then the 32nd verse describes someone who's taken complete shelter of the Lord. And we see descriptions of that in Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere. So in the 22nd chapter of Madhya Lila, one of the chapters in which Lord Chaitanya instructs Sanatana Goswami about devotional service. And this is the chapter in which he describes the devotee, and he describes 64 chief activities of devotional service that we're all familiar with. So Lord Chaitanya says to Sanatana, he says, Krishna Kripalu Arjunere Lakshya Kuriya Jogatera Rakya Chena Upadesha Diya. Krishna is so merciful that simply by aiming his instructions at Arjuna, he's given complete instruction to the whole world. And then Lord Chaitanya shares what he considers Krishna's essential instruction to Arjuna. This won't come as a surprise either. Krishna says, Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya shunu me paramam vachaha ishtosi me dridhamniti tato vakshyami te hitam manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyashi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. Krishna says, because you are my very dear friend, I'm speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So in 680 some verses, Krishna has gone through all kinds of dharmas with Arjuna, right? Told him this, there's yoga and there's Sankhya and there's so many things. He argues from so many different perspectives that Arjuna should confront those attachments, right? So then he says, he shares with Arjuna his supreme instruction. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage to me. Thus you'll come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. So he frames this. This is a secret. I'm telling you this because you're my friend. What does Swami like to say? If you love someone, they'll tell you all their secrets. So here, Krishna is telling Arjuna how to conquer him. He's telling him real religion. The other stuff's cool. As if you don't have attachment for devotional service, if you're not completely satiated by material, if you're not completely satiated and frustrated by all material endeavor, then you have to do all these other things. These things are all, what does Krishna say later in the Uddhava Gita? He says, Sve Sve Dikara Yanishta Sagunam Parikirtita. Real piety, real beauty consists of actually understanding where you are and behaving accordingly. So if you have faith in material endeavor, if you have faith in liberation, if you have faith in some kind of mystic attainment, then you have to pursue those. That's perfection. You have to know what the sadhya is. What do you have faith in? Krishna says in the Gita, in the 17th chapter, we're defined by our faith. Essentially, that's who we are. And when we talk about faith, we're not talking about just belief. Because we may believe that, we may read that book, that secret book. I guess that's kind of passé, isn't it? Haven't people just kind of, maybe not Oprah's people.
No, you still follow.
So, you read that book that says if you just build it and they will come, right? Field of Dreams. Ray Kinsella's book, Field of Dreams, about the baseball guy built a baseball field, raised his cornfield and built a baseball field there. And all these legendary ghosts of past baseball players came and played some baseball game in his ruined cornfield. So that's that book. That whole book is the same thing. If you can visualize it, if you just think of it enough, it'll manifest itself. Yeah, maybe 15 or 20 lifetimes down the line. People get, this is how people lose faith. I was reading, who was it? Oh, Manohar was saying that some kid he was babysitting said she said, I don't believe in God. And then she checking him out to see how he reacted. And he just shrugged and says, that's okay. He says, I believe in God. Not everybody has to. And she says, yeah, I didn't always get what I wanted. And he just said to himself, I'm not her mom. I'm not responding to that one. She's not going to let her bait me there, So he let it go. Always think of me. Become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage to me. And then he says, Sarvadharman Parityaja. All these other kinds of religion, completely give them up. Parityaja, not just tyaja. Parityaja, give them up. Dharma praujita kartava, right? So completely give them up and take exclusive shelter in me. Same thing. So then Lord Chaitanya says, although Krishna previously explained the proficiency of executing Vedic rituals, performing fruitive activities enjoined in the Vedas, practicing yoga, and cultivating jnana, these last instructions are the most powerful and stand above all the others. And then he says, if a devotee has faith in the strength of this order, he worships Lord Krishna and he gives everything else up. And then he cites a verse from the Uddhava Gita, Lord Chaitanya. Tavat karmani kurvita nan nirvidyeta yavata matkata shravanada va shraddhayavan najayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and hasn't awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. And then he says, and if you haven't heard this verse before, you certainly haven't heard me give class. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Kohe Sudurda Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. He gives a definition of the ultimate faith. Shraddha Shabde. What we mean by the word Shraddha is Vishvasa Kohe Sudurda Nishchoy. Complete conviction that Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. By engaging in Krishna Bhakti, everything else is accomplished. If that's your faith, then you're eligible to engage in Shuddha Bhakti. If you have faith that you have to cultivate Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, that you have to satisfy the gods, that you have to, by performing Vedic rituals, or any of these other things, then you're obligated to do all those other things. Know where you are and behave accordingly. If you have faith In karma, if you have faith in jnana, if you have faith in yoga, then you have to do those things. You have to do them perfectly to get the results. That's the catch. You mess up doing karma or karma kanda, karma yoga even. You make a simple mistake doing some Vedic ritual. Sometimes you get the opposite result. It blows up in your face, right? Like that pastime in the 6th canto. Same thing with yoga. I have a friend who was teaching Kundalini yoga. He was a guru with some following before he encountered Krishna consciousness. And he'd made a mistake doing Kundalini yoga and done some damage to his nervous system. He was he's just, he looks like a strong, fit person, but he's always getting sick. He would go out on some kirtan and he would chant until he collapsed. Then he'd go take a nap under a tree and come back and read kirtan again. Interesting devotee. That kind of faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. And then Lord Chaitanya cites a verse to support it. He cites the Bhagavatam verse to support this. He says, Yatato Ramula Nishechanena Tripyanti Tatskanda Budopasakaha Pranopaharacha Yatindriyanam Tataiva Sarvarhanam Achyuteja. By pouring water on the root of a tree, one automatically satisfies the trunk, branches, and twigs. Similarly, by supplying food to the stomach, where it nourishes the life air, one satisfies all the senses in the same way. By worshiping Krishna and rendering him service, one automatically satisfies all the demigods. So if we have that faith, that's how we're going to behave. And then Lord Chaitanya goes on to describe different classes of devotees, the Uttama Bhakta, the Madhyama Bhakta, and the Kanishta Bhakta. And we've talked about that. And I want to fast forward here. Much easier to do with a paper book than with unless there's some way that I haven't figured out yet. So then Lord Chaitanya, after doing that, of describing those different classes of devotees, then he talks a little bit about how you can identify who's a devotee more generally. So he says, Asatsanga tyage Vaishnavachara, Stri Sangi Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta. A Vaishnava should always avoid the association of ordinary people. Common people are very much materially attached, especially to the opposite sex. Vaishnavas should also avoid the company of those who are not devotees of Krishna. And then he says, by associating with worldly people, we become devoid of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, gravity, spiritual intelligence, shyness, austerity, fame, forgiveness, control of the mind, control of the senses, fortune, and all opportunities. One shouldn't at any time associate with a coarse fool who's bereft of the knowledge of self-realization and who's no more than a toy in the hands of the opposite sex. The illusion and bondage that accrue to a man from attachment to any other object are not as complete as that resulting from association with a woman. The illusion and bondage that accrue to a man from attachment to any other object are not as complete as that is resulting from someone who's illicitly associating with a woman or with men who are too attached to women, or women too attached to men. So these are verses from the Bhagavatam that Lord Chaitanya cites, and then he cites a verse from the Katyayana Samhita that says it's better to accept the miseries of being encaged within bars and surrounded by burning flames and to associate with those bereft of Krishna consciousness. Such associations are very great hardship. So, I mean, these are the characteristics of the devotees. They prefer associating with devotees. Why? Because associating with devotees nourishes devotion. And closely associating, intimately associating with people who are devoid of bhakti is going to inhibit that growth. It's going to cramp your style, your bhakti style. So, I mean, these are, do we want, how do we, again, if we go back to some points I made last week, why do we want to know who's a devotee? So we know who to associate with. So we know what kind of association will be beneficial to us. Not really that hard. And, this is just the way the world works. If you're a physicist and you're all about making some breakthrough in physics, who do you hang out with? Unless you're Carrie Mullis. Other physicists, if you're Carrie Mullis, you hang out with surfers and acid heads. Carrie Mullis is a Nobel Prize winning physicist who taught at the University of California at San Diego in La Jolla, and also a bit of a freak. So you hang out with other physicists. If you're interested in all kinds of, making money within the market or something like that, you read magazines about play in the market, and you read websites about play in the market, and you go to conventions, you go to weekend seminars about play in the market. If you want to make money in real estate, then you go to those seminars on the weekends, cash flow, real estate, whatever it is, And I've known plenty of devotees who've done this. I don't know if any of them has made any money doing it. But I think just recently I saw some devotees went to something like this. I don't remember who it was now. But that's what you do. And as Prabhupada said on a walk once in Honolulu back in, it must have been 75, if you want to progress in devotional service, then you associate with the stock market of devotional service. It's it's not some big esoteric secret. If you want to be a good football player or surfer or musician, you hang out with other musicians. You see people, these people, some of these, great musicians, Clapton, Knopfler, Harrison, and that whole crew. Who do those people hang out with? They hung out with each other all the time. These were their closest friends. Why did those people show up at that concert for George? Because these are the guys who've been hanging out with George for 35 years. These are the people who came over and spent weeks sometimes at his house, and they'd sit around and they'd do music stuff. And, and then, if you like to surf, then you go maybe to the North Shore of Oahu or to Indonesia or to Chopu in Tahiti, and you hang out, you rent a house together, maybe 15, 20 people, and you pool your money, and if it's at Chopu, you rent a boat and a jet ski, and you go out there and you take turns pulling each other into those waves and riding those insane waves. That's how you hang out. So if you really want to make progress in Krishna Bhakti, then we hang out with Krishna Bhaktas. It's not a big secret, because they're the ones who are going to be telling us about Krishna. And it's really interesting, sometimes I'll put something up on Facebook, and it's really interesting to see, sometimes my Aunt Mickey likes something that I post. That's not a picture of me. If it's a picture of me, she always reminds me, oh, you look so much like your mother. But sometimes she'll click on, devotional things that I like, or, my old friend from high school, my best friend from high school. I'll see, he's got a kind of a Facebook, or he or she has kind of a Facebook avatar. And I'll say, oh, Sally Bear liked this thing, I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's just because she likes me. We've been, we've loved each other since we were 14. So,
and my best friend from college has put put on my timeline a little video of Prabhupada chanting Hare Krishna.
yeah,
And she's a Buddhist, and she, we've had many discussions. She doesn't believe in God, but today she clicked on.
yeah. My brother and his friends who are his friends and colleagues who are Buddhists, they like they click a lot of my stuff. They like a lot of my stuff. And more recently, as I think I mentioned this before, maybe not in class, but there's a guy who was, he was a friend of my brother's. At the time I was becoming a devotee, and I met him and became friends with him back then. And he's recent, because of some family crisis, he's very recently, he went and got initiated in transcendental meditation. And just receiving the mantra, the first time he sat down and meditated on the mantra, he found such relief that he just started crying. So he's very dedicated to chanting his mantra and to reading Bhagavad Gita. And he puts up pictures of the Bhagavad Gita he reads. And it's Bhagavad Gita as it is. And he's also liked things. He and my brother also liked things about Prabhupada. My brother's has some experience with devotional service, he lived for a few weeks in the Laguna Beach temple, I guess at the end of 1970. When I came, this is the last time I blew from the Honolulu temple. I ended up in San Diego for a few weeks, and my mom was so relieved because she thought I would exert a good influence on my brother, who had dropped out of high school and was going back at night. And all of a sudden he just disappeared, dropped his night school classes and just disappeared. And this was 1970, and my brother had hair past his shoulders. If you had long hair at the time, you couldn't cross the border into Mexico, so I knew he didn't go south. And then I found a Back to Godhead, one of my Back to Godheads, sitting on his bed with the temples up the California coast ticked off: Laguna Beach, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, Seattle. So I said, "Oh, he's gone north." He made it as far as Laguna Beach. Spent a couple of nights with some guy in a cave in the Laguna Mountains at a place called Top of the World. The guy did nothing. He lived in a cave and he did nothing but chant japa all the time. So my brother spent a couple of days with this guy, and he chucked away his leather boots and his belt and walked down the Laguna Temple and moved in for a few weeks. And my mother was a little less pleased when she found out what kind of influence I'd actually had on him. And then later, remember, shortly after I got married, my wife and I went up to San Francisco for the Rath Yatra, 74, and 73, I'm sorry, 1973, but 74, Prabhupada would have been there. 1973, and my brother was living in an artist's loft down in the Wharf district. He's an artist, so therefore he was living in an artist, and we were able to find him in this warehouse loft space somehow. I knew nothing about San Francisco, and somehow or other we just sort of wandered, and it was like we were guided there. All of a sudden we were at my brother's loft. We woke him up, we took him to the Rath Yatra, and he actually got to carry Lord Balabhadra from his cart to the stage and fan deities. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of interesting, to see sometimes people you don't expect. So, why do I let somebody be my Facebook friend? No, they might see something that, that they like. Who knows? They might post something that I like. My brother's has a colleague who's a Zen priest, the one who ordained him, who's quite expert in writing haiku, which I always enjoy. This haiku are always really, really nice, really insightful. Sometimes they're just nature, sometimes they're reflections on the impermanence of the material world and nature of spiritual endeavor or something like that. It's quite good. So so anyway, this is why we associate with devotees, because devotees, Machita Madhita Prana, Bodhayanta Paraspatam, Katayantas Chamam Nityam, Tushyanti Charanati Cha. They're always talking about Krishna, always enlightened, and they get great pleasure and satisfaction from enlightening one another and discussing Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. That's why we associate with devotees, because it grows bhakti. If we have faith in bhakti, then we're going to do the things that grow bhakti. If we have faith in something else, then we're going to do, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Now, I want to do one caveat before people freak out about, devotees don't like to associate with non-devotees. It's better to live in a cage with a tiger or surrounded by fire, or in a cage with a tiger surrounded by fire. What we're talking about is sharing our hearts with people, with associating intimately with people who are essentially averse to Krishna consciousness. We don't want that kind of company. And we see that even when we associate with folks who may not actually be averse, but if they're not interested in Krishna consciousness, we're going to be engaged in other things as well. I mean, that's what happened to me 3 times I left the temple in 1970. I kept chanting, but I did other things too. And some of them were not conducive to the culture of bhakti. So that's what we do. And, when we do associate with other people, we have, we go to the store, we go to work, we have things that we have to do. We're nice to them. We don't want to be weird. We don't want them to think, oh, here, Krishnas are weird. They're just weird people. They don't like anybody. We've seen those people as well. One friend on the big island, he goes to store, he always has his hand in his big bag, and he's always going, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. And it's nice in a way, but people just go, even sometimes devotees think, okay, doesn't he know he's just in a store shopping for, cheese and bread or some avocados or something? So it doesn't mean that we have to lock ourselves in a cave necessarily.
Ice cream man.
If the ice cream man is here, then it must be time to stop class. And now it must be time to stop class. Does anybody have anything to add, or any questions or objections or corrections?
I guess I could just add one more thing. I was looking at this webinar thing today about, and a woman was talking about, being a success in your life and the things that you have to do. And it was all about, changing your conscious mind, changing your unconscious mind. And especially in regards to changing your unconscious mind, it's about getting rid of all the negative beliefs that you have, that because no matter what you say you want, it's what you believe that you're going to get. So, but she was giving, things that you can do, and one of the biggest things that she talked about was choosing your association very carefully and associating with positive people as opposed to people that had, a lot of negativity. So, everybody understands that principle. That these people that are progressive in their thinking and wanting to lead lives that are full of love and joy and peace as opposed to stress and anxiety.
Yeah,
You have to associate with people that are also interested in being of love and peaceful.
and if we want, if we want a life that's full of aggression and violence and dominance, then we find people like that.
Yeah.
And frankly, those people aren't happy. And their lives, their lives go nowhere. Usually, quite often those are people who don't have any hope. Sometimes, especially, we see, among certain group of men in our country, they don't expect to live past their earlier mid-20s. So they just kind of band together and try to keep each other alive as long as they can, and then one day it's over and it's their funeral that everybody goes to. So if that's what if that's all you can have faith in, if that's all there is for you to believe in, then that's what you do. You join a gang, or whatever, some kind of gang. Join ISIS. Oh my God! Now they're going to come after me. Daesh, come and get me now. Daesh, I call you Daesh. Some kind of insult. Anything else? Bhakti Sangha ki jai, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Ashram Swami ki jai.
I know hanging around crazy Italian people makes me feel crazy.